And I think like it's so interesting. Like there's so many interesting concepts and street dance styles that like if you like decide to transpose them onto two bodies or more, it's like whoa, like the possibilities are like infinite.
It took me so long to recover. It
Okay, we're here with Emmanuelle, aka Cleopatra, Bgirl Cleopatra from Tentacle Tribe and legendary crew. Um, Emmanuelle is someone who I've really wanted to have on the podcast to chat about her experiences and stuff because she's been a huge actual influence on me personally in my dance and how I move and perceive the dance. And I really want to share her perspective with everyone. So thanks for coming on and doing this. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Um, so for anyone who doesn't know who you are, do you mind doing a little kind of just introduction of yourself and who you are, where you're from, or whatever?
Sure. Born and raised in Ottawa. Started breaking when I was 18 from raves. Um, and I mean, I danced in school. I did some contemporary dance parallel to breaking. Um, I danced for certain companies like Rubber Band Dance. I also worked with Cirque du Soleil and Cirque du Soleil as a dancer.
Hmm.
And in 2012, I founded my own company with Elon Hoagland Tentacle Tribe, and so now that's mainly what I do. I run my company, and I try to rep whenever I can, but
Hmm.
my main focus is my company.
Yeah. So, um, I'm kind of curious about, yeah, like how you kind of got into the more, I guess, theater and contemporary side of things. Like, because you started out as a be well, not started out, but you were kind of heavy into breaking for a while, right?
Yeah,
And then
it
when
was
you,
always very parallel, but I did go into modern before I discovered breaking.
oh,
So
really?
like in 94, I went to a high school that had a concentration danse contemporaine. So your afternoons you would dance. So with that program in school, I would go and see theater shows at the NAC in Ottawa at the National Arts Center, and I would see like how like companies would put together productions, and I saw like La 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 Human Steps and Compagnie C de la Baie and big companies, and I was like in awe, and I really wanted to do that. And in
Hmm.
that program in high school, they would also encourage choreography. So I dabbled in choreography and conceptualizing um, little pieces
Hmm.
of dance. And then at the end of high school, that's when I discovered breaking. So breaking came after
Ah,
modern.
see.
Because there wasn't a lot of breaking in Ottawa at that time, and when I saw it in a rave, and I was like, "Oh my god, I need to do this!" And so I was totally in love with breaking, and I was doing that on the side at night. Practices were usually at night, and then with my schooling, that's when I would do more contemporary styles.
Uh,
And like university, I also did a bachelor in fine arts in contemporary dance. And I almost didn't graduate because at night I would go to break practice, and all no break practices are like 9 to 11
right,
p.m.
right, yeah, yeah.
and my technique classes were at 9 a.m. So it was really hard to like juggle those two
Oh
worlds,
man.
and they were still very separate. Um,
Hmm.
so that was like, yeah, that was a big dilemma for me. Like my whole 20s actually, like I was trying to like see how I could bring, because I loved stage productions and creations on stage, and but I love breaking too. It was like my drug. I love breaking. So like,
Hmm.
so with rubber band dance, I feel like that was the first company. Well, not the first company, but one of the first companies that I danced for. They kind of mixed ballet, more classical stuff, with breaking. So it was the closest, I could find at that time, and I loved it. I learned so much with rubber band, how to, hybridize instead of like copy pasting. Like, let's do one six step and then one pirouette.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah,
So, so how to like organically put styles together. So
yeah.
I
Hmm.
learned a lot with that company, and then I guess it just took time, and like meeting people, and when I met Elon and through Cirque du Soleil, like I could see that he was trying to do something of the sort of like blending styles,
Hmm.
and together we kind of worked for years, like to develop like our own aesthetic, I guess, or how we wanted to create and how we wanted to teach what we do.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I, I I don't know. Maybe I'm just like, yeah, it's the background that I come from with starting with breaking, but like I never really knew about like
Yeah.
stage shows and stuff. Like I knew, obviously, I knew they existed, but I just didn't know anything about them. But I always found like, I don't know, maybe it's like an Ottawa thing because it's, like kind of like a government city and knowing about like government grants and stuff like that and uh,
Because you grew up in
yeah, I
Vancouver,
grew up
correct?
in Vancouver and it's just like it's way less of a thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I
I
think
feel
there's
like
less of a, because I think correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a lot of stage like contemporary dance in Canada. The hub is Montreal. I feel there's a lot in
yeah,
Montreal,
maybe, yeah,
and a lot of history. So mm, maybe Vancouver is a bit harder to
yeah,
find as a b-boy.
yeah. It could also be just like it's a smaller city, but who knows?
Yeah.
Um, one thing, yeah, I want to talk about is I've heard this from a few other people that a lot of people found like certain dances through raves, and you mentioned that too. So I was wondering if you don't mind to just talk a little bit about that, like that time and like yeah, what it was about the dance or that kind of thing that hooked
Um,
you or whatever.
yeah, it was like a really fun time for raves. They were like really underground. Like
Hmm.
like the day before you'd call a pager or whatever, and like they'd tell you the location. You like hop on this school bus and they drive you in the woods or something. Like it was really exhilarating to like take part of, even though it was
Hmm.
like kind of dangerous.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god! My mom let me do. She never let me do this because she didn't know where I was. So.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but I was like 16 and I really wanted to like go out in bars and clubs, and I just wanted to. I loved dancing, and I
Yeah.
wanted to
Hmm.
like go to bars, and I didn't have like no one looked like me because
Hmm.
I didn't have like a fake ID to go.
Okay.
So raves were the thing, you could
Huh.
be whatever age and go to raves. So,
Hmm.
and there was a lot back then. So I'd go all night and dance all night, and for like maybe two raves, I was like the raver with the baggy pants and the little buns and I didn't have a pacifier, but I was like, but then I just like I think it was maybe the second or third rave I saw. There's always like a drum and bass hip hop room, and I saw Cypher, and I saw like in Ottawa like a few b boys. I think it was like Nicolas Bercier and I don't know who else. Maybe like some of the Canadian floor masters, maybe. Not sure.
Hmm.
And then I was just like, whoa, that's so cool. I want to do this. But yeah, like there was a lot. Like I remember there was big raves in Montreal at that time too, with from Productions 514, like Cream and Swirl. I don't know if you heard of them, but I remember Cream. No, it was Swirl. They brought Rocksteady Crew,
Oh wow.
and there was a big battle between Flow Rock and Tactical back then. I think that was like in '98. I'm not
Wow.
sure, but like yeah, raves were like that's where you would see like I guess street dances, at that time.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. I just have some.
there, well, I mean, it was really like it wasn't many organized battles. It was just like people dancing and like
Yeah,
ciphers, and then people would call each other out if they, there was no internet then, so you'd see someone from out of town and be like, "I've heard of you, like let's battle." And I
yeah,
remember seeing girls like, because I was from Ottawa, so I saw girls from Montreal, and I'd be like, "Ooh," and they were like looking at me like they've heard of me or like I've heard of them, and they're like, "Oh," there was this like rivalry,
yeah,
place.
yeah. I've heard a lot of
Different people in
people
Illegal.
talk about that time like very fondly. Where, yeah, it was not. There wasn't really, like you said, there wasn't really competitions, and it was a lot more of you're dancing because you really want to dance and like
Partying.
and just partying, right? And like it was like you said, the place where a lot of people found like saw street dances for the first time. Like in Vancouver, I know there's a bunch of people. They were like a lot of the poppers and lockers and yeah, some b-boys and b-girls were there too. But like that's where I guess like Vancouver's sort of like funk style scene grew out of, as far as I know. It was like they all met each other at raves and like
Yeah.
that's
And
yeah, that's where it
was
started.
that in the late 90s or early?
Yeah, that was like maybe late 90s or early 2000s or something like that. But yeah, and then it died out for whatever reason, or they just, grew out of it or stopped going. I don't know what it was, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Didn't raves just kind of die
I
down too?
guess so. I was like never into it. I just didn't know. I wasn't cool enough to know about it. So.
Are you my age? When did you start?
Maybe I'm 36 now, so
Oh,
I started when I was like 17.
okay.
I think
So
it was
2000.
2000. What the hell was that? 2001 or 2002 or
Okay. Yeah, there was raves still then.
yeah, yeah. But I just didn't know about it, and I was too much of a shy
We're
kid.
cool
Just
enough.
just practicing in my like whatever some room by myself, hiding it from everyone. I didn't want anybody to know.
To
Yeah. Um, so yeah, that was raves. They were a thing. They were a thing back
They were fun. I had a lot of fun.
then. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe can you talk a little bit about your like Cirque du Soleil experience? Because I don't really know. I didn't really heard about that too much.
Cirque du Soleil. I got they asked me to send a demo in
Hmm.
2004. At that time, I was dancing with Rubber Band Dance,
Hmm.
and I sent this VHS with a 17-minute demo.
Awesome.
I put everything in there, like yeah. My audition process was long. There was like 1 week of theater, and then I passed, and then I had to do 3 months of trials to see like they wanted to see. I had to like walk on these giant balls. That's like a Chinese discipline. They're like
Okay.
giant balls, and you have to this thing. They had like hung these ladders really high, like diagonally, and like this, and like we were all rigged with
Hmm.
harnesses, and like we had to like walk on them. They asked us to do a bunch of like trampoline stuff, like so they want to see what dancers could do um, in their show. So after those 3 months, like I got the contract finally.
Oh, jeez.
So it was a long audition process, and then I moved to Vegas. We created the show. It was a 9-month creation. It was really long. Um, really fun, a fun group of people, like really diverse. We were 16 dancers in total, and a lot of gymnasts, a lot of acrobats, specialists, a few clowns from all around the world, like Brazilian, South African, Ukrainian,
Hmm.
And in the dancers, in the 16 dancers, we had like gumboot dancers, hip hop, ballet,
Wow. Super
popper.
diverse.
Yeah, super diverse. It was really fun.
Yeah.
But in a way, like it was really, like the metteur en scène, the director of the show, at one point he wanted everyone on stage to like spin with their discipline, and he saw Sancho, Sancho.
Oh, I know of
He
him.
saw Sancho do his air flares, and he's like, "Oh, okay, I want everyone. Can everyone learn this?"
No, no, can't learn it. Okay.
And we're like, "Yeah, we're gonna all learn that."
Did you learn them?
I don't know. We were just no, they're like Cirque du Soleil is a bit clueless sometimes. It's such a big machine, and
Hmm.
like they asked us to like all the girls, the dancers, they wanted us to learn point. Like even like the hip hop dancers, point is something you do after years of training. It's like
Yeah.
an air, like and
Yeah,
we
yeah,
bought
yeah.
shoes and like we started training, and I was like, this is insane. I'm gonna get hurt.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So insane. What a
Yeah.
machine
Yeah.
company. But it was fun. I had a great experience, like living in Vegas for 2 years and doing 10 shows a week, like learning how to
Jeez.
pace yourself.
Yeah.
It was really
Yeah, what were some of the things that like you took away from that experience in particular?
yeah, learning how to take care of my body. It was I had my first big injury in Vegas on stage. I tore my Achilles. So
Oh.
from that experience, I learned how to, yeah, better take care of my body, um,
Hmm.
stretch,
Yeah.
strengthen, Pilates, yoga, all this stuff.
Yeah. Is that something that's
Because
carried on
before that, I
throughout the
wasn't
years?
just, sorry, what?
Has that carried on like until now?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's
But I
good.
think it's through my injuries, because after that, I got injured a
Hmm.
lot. So
Yeah.
through my injuries, I'm learning that how this machine works.
Yeah. I feel like that's really common with maybe maybe more so with like street dance. I don't know, because it's less, I don't know, I feel like it's less formal and less, it's just kind of like you learn it wherever and however. And
Exactly.
like, you always hear like, yeah, you should stretch and take care of yourself and stuff like that. And people are like, yeah, when you get older, you're going to feel these things. You're like, ah, yeah, whatever, who cares? And then you get older and then you
And
start to
you're like,
feel it and things start to hurt and stuff.
I feel
That's,
like the younger generation of b-boys are a bit more aware of that now.
yeah, I think so. Yeah. Which is good. It's showing like growth in in the culture, in
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
community. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. So then, after Cirque du Soleil, you you formed Tentacle Tribe. Is that right? Or did you do
Yeah,
something
I
else
I
before that?
danced for a few other companies, but like,
Hmm.
yeah, because that's where I met Elon, and like it took us a while to decide to start a company, like in
Hmm.
terms of what we wanted to create. Like we wanted to create something unique. We didn't want to just create something. We wanted it to be like original and well thought of. So it took us a while to kind of do all this research. We knew we wanted to do a lot of partner work,
Hmm.
and we knew we wanted it to be like a very organic hybrid fusion form of all these styles that we had in our bodies. Like Elon has a lot of martial arts in his body, um, and breaking and popping, and I had like contemporary breaking. So it took us a while. So
Hmm.
2012, yeah, we founded Tentacle Tribe.
Yeah, like for anyone that doesn't know, like you should definitely check out their work. It's when I first saw it, I was like blown away because I'd never seen
Oh yeah.
anything.
What did you see?
It was like,
In Vancouver?
no, it was like an excerpt from, yeah, what is that? Pixelated Squid, your
Oh
first
yeah.
one, I think.
Mhm.
But it was just so cool to see that, like, you know, yeah, it's kind of contemporary-ish, but very heavy on the like street styles and a lot of like sort of, what do you call it, like, yeah, it's kind of breaking, but then it's kind of, but it wasn't like you said, like, okay, this is contemporary and then suddenly there's a six step and then it's back to contemporary, and then all of a sudden there's like a windmill or something like that. It was very fluid and very like it. Yeah, it was just really engaging as a viewer.
Mm, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we do a lot of hip hop festivals, and we it's like sometimes it's like we get the feedback where we're not hip hop enough for these festivals, and then
Mm.
but on the other side of contemporary, we're like when we do contemporary festivals, we're more hip
Yeah.
hop. It's like we don't fit.
Yeah.
We don't fit anywhere, or we fit everywhere.
Yeah. That's kind of something that I've been thinking about over the last little while. Is like, you know, you have, like you said, there's sort of like hip hop or street dance, and there's contemporary, or there's modern, or there's ballet, or whatever. And like, sometimes I feel like, at least maybe me personally, and like you guys had a huge impact on me personally about like how I view these things, and um, but it was like I became less and less interested in wanting to like be a good b-boy like that. I was less interested in that and more interested in just like, okay, I just want to move and find interesting movement, and it doesn't matter what
Hmm.
like category it falls in. I just want to have interesting movement. And then it stopped
Right.
mattering like what music specifically. It was like, okay, well, this music has this feeling, it makes me want to move in this way and this kind of
Yeah.
thing. And like, maybe I discover what, say house movement or feeling is through doing that without necessarily learning it. But like, it's because the music makes you want to move a certain way or something like that.
Right.
And yeah, like, and then I got into like Bruce Lee and his, but he had the same thinking with like martial arts, right?
Yeah.
And like, it's not about, karate or kung fu or Wing Chun or whatever it is. It's like you're trying to find the
Efficiency.
best way to, yeah, the best way to move
Yeah.
in whatever situation you're in, and that kind of thing.
Exactly.
And so like, yeah, after that I was like, I don't know, my mind was blown. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like Alana and I often talk about like animals, how they like you'll never see an animal like trip and fall. Like they're just always super aligned and super efficient with what they need to do in order to
Hmm.
get from A to B or to go get that food. So yeah, we try to like channel that when we, go through our body and like align ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's really important too when you do a lot of partnering, like when you're taking the weight of other people.
Hmm.
And it's lost in a few like of other techniques. Sometimes it's like
Hmm.
so inorganic. Like I don't know. Like
Yeah.
let's
But
use our
like,
tool like, the best we can.
yeah, like especially after taking like your workshop for the first time, you and Elon's workshop. I think it was the first time you guys came to Vancouver or something. But yeah, you were just kind of like showing your aesthetic of how you create and stuff like that. And when you did partner work and stuff, like there was a lot of sort of like, it really opened my mind to the things of like, it's almost like a conversation of knowing when it's your time to speak and when you should stop and let the other person speak and that kind of thing. And
Hmm.
it was like, if you're not used to that, you're really like, you're thinking too much, and you're like, okay, I gotta keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. And then the person's got to give you like a really clear sign, like they want to move or something like that, or you don't know like when to just let it go and be like, okay, my idea's done. Like, it's
Yeah.
your turn, and you do something or whatever.
Because it's so like in street dance now, it's gotten so codified. Like you go in, it's like 45 seconds, and then you
Hmm.
go out to the next person.
Hmm.
And when you go in, you like it's a monologue,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
It's just you and I mean, yeah, okay, you can say it's an exchange, a conversation, but like you you're not dancing with the person in
Hmm.
exchange.
Or I would say most people aren't.
Most people aren't. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think like it's so interesting. Like there's so many interesting concepts and street dance styles that like if you like decide to transpose them onto two bodies or more, it's like whoa, like the possibilities are like infinite.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
there's-
So like after that, me and Mark just started going crazy with ideas and like just going like, what is the stupidest thing that we could do here? But
yeah.
yeah, like it really. And then I have some slight background with like Buddhism. My dad is like a heavy Buddhist and this kind of thing. So just thinking about stuff like that with like, you know, I guess sort of like that. Well, and then getting into like flow and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do partner work, especially, it becomes really clear of like knowing, yeah, when to let an idea go, or
Mm-hmm.
how long do you hold on to it, and how
Yeah.
long, and like like we said before, like knowing when to just listen or just receive this person's movement, and knowing when to be like, okay, I'm gonna go now, and but you don't have to tell each other with like tapping them on the shoulder or verbalizing
No.
it. It just kind of happens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a perfect exercise for exactly listening or like being
Mm-hmm.
in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's meditation, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
can't like plan anything.
Yeah.
You're listening to what's around you at that moment. And you're like, okay, and your decisions are
Yeah, it's just kind of
intuition.
happening, right? You're not
Yeah, exactly.
planning too far. You can't plan too far into the future because
No,
the other person might do something that like upsets
yeah,
that
exactly.
path that it was going on. And so you got to adapt to what they're doing. And okay, oh, they shifted position. Like, okay, I can't do that anymore. But it's like split second decisions, and
Yeah.
it's really, really interesting and really eye opening. And
For
yeah.
me, like I mean, that's what I really love about dance, like right
Mm-hmm.
now, and like with the situation right now, everyone's doing solos or
Yeah, yeah,
not touching, and it's really
yeah.
it's really hard for me to see if like if we can't touch anymore, like I don't know if Tentacle Tribe would exist, you know, like that's
Yeah, yeah. You guys have like really, I don't know, especially when you started adding in other members, because originally it
yeah.
was just the two of you, right?
Hmm.
And the two of you had, though it was just two people, you guys had incredible duos, and like the way that you guys would interact and use each other's movements and limbs and things like that, manipulate each other and this kind of stuff was really incredible. And then when you added in like extra people, it was just like whatever you guys were already doing, and you multiplied it with more people. Yeah, and it was really
Yeah,
incredible to see.
yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah.
It was like a lot of work at the beginning because we had never like managed so many people. We were just us two before, and then
Mm-hmm.
like so it was hard for like a year, but then as we got used to it, it was and some company members are still there right now and they're used to the work, so
Mm-hmm.
it's getting really fun.
Yeah, yeah. So it's always exciting to see what you guys are up to and
Yeah.
doing. And yeah, I like that you guys, yeah, you're very like movement based. Like maybe you have some stories, but or whatever, like
But yeah,
background stories
yeah.
or something. I don't know. But it's
Exactly.
like even as an audience member, just watching the show, like I'm captivated by just the movement, and like I don't know. That's always been a big thing for me. I think. I don't know. How do you feel about say theater shows and or and maybe this is kind of a commentary on just like art in general, quote unquote art. And some shows are just kind of like I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. Like you gotta kind of get it. If you don't get it, then you're not artsy enough or something like that. Or I don't
You
know.
have to read the description to know what's happening.
Yeah, and even when you read the description, it's like, wait, is this even English or is this even whatever language I'm speaking? Like, it feels like a different language. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, there's like all types of
yeah,
work being made, and
yeah.
I think like with a lot of like like when people come and see our shows and we do a Q&A after, a lot of people want to know the story. Like it's like
Mm-hmm.
really important for people that I feel like normal people that watch TV and movies, they grasp onto like a narrative, and I think that's not how we create. Like I think the
Mm-hmm.
narrative comes later on after we kind of like strung together these
Mm-hmm.
beads. It's like when you have a piece of like music, like there's not necessarily a story to it. It's just like the sounds, the part of the song is
Yeah.
great. It
Yeah.
moves you. So I don't know. We kind of want to see dance in the same way instead
Mm-hmm.
of like, but we've tried, and like also with the grant system, and now like you kind of need a theme or something to talk
Mm-hmm.
about instead of like we're just gonna dance. Like I remember like a dancer, I don't know who it was. I think it was Margicolas back in the 80s. She wrote a grant and she just like I'm just gonna dance. But you can't do that anymore because there's so much competition. You have to have like
Yeah.
a well-written dissertation of what you're gonna research or create. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's why it's become so cerebral.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like that's one thing that I've been thinking about with, yeah, just with dance, and like in some ways it's gotten as far as like maybe performance and like theater kind of shows and stuff like that, theater dance. Like it's so, sometimes it's so far away from like just the everyday kind of person that unless you're like some crazy super nerd about these things and like you know every little detail, or you're looking for every little detail, like you're not going to be able to appreciate this stuff. And sometimes like I think, just my opinion, like it's why dance has like sometimes stayed a bit more niche than, but it's like it's weird because it's something that's so ancient and it's like in everybody to want to move, and
Exactly.
you hear music in it, like if it's if it's good or you like it, like doesn't matter what genre it is, like you'll want to kind of, even if you close your eyes and your head kind of goes like this or something, or into some
That's what
classical song or
dancers do, right? They bounce to the music and they want to like when the babies see breakdancing, like they
yeah.
go on their hands and their heads and their
Yeah.
you know they
Well, I
want to do
think
that.
breaking is a perfect example of like that I don't know, ancient kind of like spirit in all of us of like it's this
Like a
thing of like it
mindful,
just breaks out and you just do
exactly.
crazy things, and like that is just attractive to people and makes people want to either watch or do it or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's playful and it's very like
Yeah.
animal. Like it's very,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Like
it's very interesting because I've been in my like recently I've been trying to like we always mix popping and breaking aesthetics, and like breaking is very like round and like
mhm,
you move the body as one, and then
mhm.
popping is like very
Yeah. Like isolated or
mechanical, I guess, like isolation. So they're like two opposite aesthetics. And
mhm.
anyways, I don't know where I was going with that.
But yeah, like yeah, one thing actually I wanted to bring up too was, and it comes back to, yeah, like your guys' workshop that you did, and it's probably something that you guys do all the time. But it was like your warm up that you did, where it was okay, we're gonna take like our fingers and just our fingers, and we're gonna like move our fingers and explore movement with just the fingers, and then you slowly like kind of unlock each part of your body, and like that that was another one that really just opened my mind to a whole new way of thinking about dance, because like, and I think especially with b-boys and b-girls, like it's so focused on what are your feet doing, and like top rock's very leg focused and feet focused, and like yeah, you do use your hands, your arms and stuff, you swing them, but like a lot of people, they have like dead arms, and I had that too. And then I think it was like one rehearsal, and Elon was like, to everyone, he was like, okay, it's good like you guys are using your arms, but then the movement dies at like your wrists, and you're not letting it continue out even into the fingers. And I was like, oh damn, I didn't even think about that. Like, yeah, like you got to engage your whole body. And and I come back to that drill a lot of like, it's really targeting like each area and making you aware that hey, this part exists and you can move this and you can utilize it in all these different ways and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't come up with that.
Yeah. But like I I uh I was
But
exposed to
I
it
mean,
through you guys.
yeah, for sure. And like for sure, when you're breaking, you don't think about that.
Yeah.
Maybe more so in popping drills, you'll isolate more
Mm-hmm.
and be aware more of the little, more fine parts of your body.
Mm-hmm.
But in breaking, yeah, breaking, it's just like primal. Like you're moving and you're like, oh,
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
is windmill or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's intricacies in footwork. But yeah, you're right. Like the more detailed stuff in breaking is the speed for sure. Once you
Mm-hmm.
start using your hands and breaking your arms, like it gets more interesting, I think.
Yeah, like I feel like after that I understood a lot more about what separates kind of like the really good people. At least I don't know, maybe it's my own personal bias and what I like. It's like small details and things like that. But when people talk about say character and this kind of thing, it's kind of like this mysterious thing of like what is character and that kind of thing. But that's part of it is like they're aware of everything that they're doing and they can commit their whole body to a movement right down to their fingertips of
Mm-hmm.
how it's not just like I'm grabbing my hat, but like how am I grabbing it? Is it like with the fingers out or something like that, or is my hand on the hip and how is it on the hip, and how am I grabbing my foot, or
Yeah,
what angle is my leg at, that kind of thing. Like,
yeah.
yeah, it's just opened my eyes
It's
a
not
lot
what you
more
do, it's how you do it. Right?
exactly, right? Yeah, and it's those little details that really make it.
And I think that comes with time and maturity, and
Mm-hmm.
you see it in the people that have been doing it longer. So
Yeah, for sure, for sure. um
I'm happy that you took so much from that workshop.
yeah, well, like
It was fun. It was the first one, and there was like 30 people. No, that workshop
I
in
think there was
Vancouver.
more than 30 people. I don't know. It was a lot. Yeah.
It was a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I don't know. I think that's, that's something that like, in my opinion, I think everyone should experiment with. Like, if you're interested in dance and you're interested in movement, like, yeah, try all these different styles and explore movement. And you can still like whatever you like and breaking or popping or contemporary or ballet, but like try all these different things out and learn about your body and how it moves and just movement in general. Yeah, I think it's super useful. Yeah.
It's so interesting. Like there's so many possibilities.
Yeah.
Research is the funnest part. Like yeah, performing's fun, but like
Hmm.
research is
Yeah, like I almost feel like that's something that it's coming back to that sort of primal, ancient instinct of we just want to explore and stuff, and
yeah,
it's just fun to move around and do things.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So another thing that I wanted to bring up, and like this has been a recent theme with some of the recent interviews, just because the people are a little bit older. Um, yeah, like the idea of kind of getting older and doing dance, and like how do you balance that kind of thing of like, yeah, your body is starting to, you can't do the same things that you could do before or whatever, or just like even not even physical, well, sometimes it's physical, yeah, it is physical, but like lifestyle changes. So for example, like you just had a baby recently, which congratulations on that as well. So like, yeah, balancing all these things, and still doing dance and that kind of thing? How do you do that in your,
Oh,
not how,
that's
but
my
like,
question. How do you do that?
what are some of the things that you either struggle with or you're discovering as you get older and these kind of things?
It's funny because like right before this interview, like my shoulders like really not feeling good right now, and it's like really bugging me. And I'm like, my interview is gonna suck because I feel like so like not a dancer.
Mm.
Um, yeah, injuries. I've been injured so much, like um, in my career, and I've like yeah, I've managed to keep on going. I've had to cancel some stuff, but it really you gotta learn how to like work with them, I guess. Work with
Mm-hmm.
your limitations.
Mm-hmm.
So like for example, like I have like stubbed my toe like a long time ago, my big toe, and I have arthritis in this joint, and I almost can't dance with shoes now. It hurts to like do this with shoes. So like I break barefoot now. I love breaking barefoot, and it works for me.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that.
um, but yeah, like I have to like adapt. I wear knee pads a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Bursitis and getting older is like it's really humbling, and like the most humbling experience is like just what I've been through, like pregnancy and getting back into shape afterwards. Like now I'm 7 months postpartum.
Mm-hmm.
At first I was like, oh, I want to be back on stage after like 4 or 5 months, and I was like, that was very arrogant of me. Like I need to like chill out and give my body some time. But I am 40, so like I think I just need to be realistic with goals.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm disciplined enough to get back into it, but I think it's a real test of patience.
Mm-hmm.
And accepting like your limitations. Like I want flexibility. I'll lose flexibility as I get older.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like things like also being interested in different. Like I think standing, popping concepts, styles are easier than breaking. So like going
Mm-hmm.
into different interests, different concepts.
Yeah, like one thing that I was talking with Smooth about this, and he brought it
Mm,
up too. It's like, yeah, we were talking about physical longevity, but also like mental longevity, and the ups and downs that you can go through with, say, dance, and you know, especially when you're really young, you're so into it, and there's so many possibilities, and you get older, and like, yeah, some physical stuff might happen. You might get injured, or you just, yeah, you're just not able to move the same way, and sometimes there's like um, you got to realize certain things and accept certain things and accept certain changes, and some people are better at that than others, and you know and then the other thing too was like the idea of just some people, their whole identity, their entire identity is like tied to dance, which is like, that's fine, right? But when, say, they get injured, and I don't know if this has happened with you or not, I think probably every dancer to an extent has had this happen, where if you get injured and or you just, there's some, say, global pandemic that forces people to not really be able to dance, like, or at least dance the way they want to or whatever, like, it crumbles a lot of some people's worlds of like, well, what do I do now? I can't do this anymore. Who am I as a person or something like that.
Like all that like when I tore my Achilles, I was just like, who am
Right.
I?
Yeah.
I need a crisis.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to like have other interests too, and like I think
Mm-hmm.
where I'm going with my company is that I really am trying to develop my craft as a choreographer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, and not being on stage, just
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really important thing, is dancers is like, okay, well, how do you give yourself longevity? Like, where do you go when you can't perform anymore? Like, if you haven't developed these things like, say, choreography or learning about, I don't know, whatever it is, like if you're heavy into government grants, maybe that's the thing, a path that you go into or something like that, but like it's something that, well, I don't know, I kind of feel like, yeah, people can move however long, people can move for an incredibly long time, most likely, but it's
And it's
just like,
helping even with your
and
injury.
yeah, yeah, but I think the question of like, yeah, why are you moving, why are you dancing, changes a lot, and that can really affect like your, yeah, your motivations of what you're doing, why you're doing the dance, and that kind of thing. And you know if you're okay with, yeah, okay, maybe my movement now is not good enough for the stage or something like that, it's not good enough to win this competition, but I still like dancing, and maybe I don't do dance as like my career or something like that, it just shifts into something else, but like, you know I still want to move, but my reason for moving has shifted now. Yeah, I don't know what I was trying to say there, but
That start, like trickling out of the scene or whatever, but you just stop. That's fine. Maybe it's
yeah, I
there.
guess, yeah, part of it, what I was getting at was like that, back to that mental longevity, because you see it a lot with people, they just kind of like stop dancing. I see it a lot in with like my friends from Japan, and you know and I hear it a lot with just the lifestyle here. It's like when they're young, they practice super hard and they go and travel or whatever, and then a lot of times they come back to Japan, and then kind of like real life starts, and they get a job, and then they kind of just stop dancing completely, or
That's what
they
happens.
yeah, and like it happens everywhere, but I've just from the Japanese sort of lifestyle, work is super hard, and like if you're not married by kind of 30, you're kind of a weirdo or something. More so for girls, I think, but yeah.
Yeah, I heard the name for women unmarried older girls is trash or something.
Yeah, it's like a very, I don't know. I think that happens in China too. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, like it's really common for people just kind of like, all right, I'm just gonna stop like give up dancing, and I just don't do it anymore, even if maybe they really want to. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess for some, I guess it's not possible to keep the hobby or have the time to.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's where I'm getting at, was like your reason for why you dance and how it will change how you dance. So if you're just
Yeah.
doing, if you've given up that idea of like, well, I'm not going to win these competitions, or I'm not going to be Red Bull BC1 kind of person or whatever, or I'm not going to even be in a stage on stage, like, and start my own company, but I still want to move. It's like you can
Yeah.
find 5 minutes or something here and there to
I
just
think
like,
so. Instead of watching
yeah,
Netflix.
right. Yeah, and I guarantee that would be super therapeutic for a lot of people. Of like, all right, 5 minutes stress relief, of just let go and this kind of thing.
Yeah,
Forget about everything. Yeah.
sure.
That's another thing that I want to come back to. I don't know if you had something that you wanted to add before I cut you off. But yeah, it's kind of coming back to sort of the raves, but also, yeah, just what we were talking about with, you know, duos, or when we talk about conversations in dance, or these kind of things, of like the idea of just being in the moment and letting things happen, and letting things just flow and create, like without necessarily consciously trying to make it happen. um, and like I noticed that a lot in your dance, because you share some of these little freestyle kind of things, and I was always blown away at like the kind of movement that you come up with in these little freestyle things. And maybe, yeah, can you just talk a little bit about your mentality
It's just
towards
like
that, I guess?
yeah, yeah. I'm not always like, sometimes I'm really in my head though. Like I watch myself in these, because obviously I'm filming myself. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes there's a mirror or whatever, and I'm trying to do something interesting. So I'm gonna be in my head, and then I'll snap out of it and just go back to that flow, that meditation where you're not planning anything. Um, so yeah, there's like I'm always going through these freestyles, solo freestyles where I'm going a really cerebral kind of like math, geometry, math kind of
Yeah.
like,
But I,
or like plan to do something, because I've been trying to like recently just get my breaking back here, like especially my faster things, because my ligaments are super loose from pregnancy. So I'm just trying to get some get down, some go downs, some dynamic stuff in there with like super like intricate,
mm-hmm,
complex
mm-hmm,
connections.
yeah.
So yeah, you sometimes like, especially with breaking, because when I break, actually, when I battle, like I plan, I
Mm.
have sets, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I feel like breaking is so, for me, breaking is, it's really difficult. It's like
Yeah.
hard. I get injured if I like would really, really like go and freestyle. Like I can freestyle and breaking, but when I would do battles, I kind of plan the big movement. And I
Yeah.
think that's true for a lot of b-boys and b-girls.
Yeah, I think so.
So, it's really nice though when you get to that point where you can just let the creativity just like flow through you, like
Yeah.
find.
Yeah. But I kind of almost think, even sometimes, like you said, sometimes you're really in your head and you're really thinking about this detail or how to move this kind of thing, whatever. But it's like that can even be part of the flow of like you've decided to go, there's this thing that's interesting, this idea that's interesting, and you're exploring it really deeply, maybe. And but I think like if you're really in that kind of, you're still creating like in the moment, and it's just knowing again like when to let the idea go, like all right, it's run
Right.
its course, and now I'm like trying to make it work when it's not
Yeah.
working anymore, or I have no juice left. Yeah. And like that
I
stuff has
think,
always been really interesting to me.
and I think it works best when you're dancing, exchanging with someone, or you're dancing with someone.
Hmm.
I think alone is quite difficult though.
Yeah.
When you're having a conversation, an exchange, or you're dancing, you're doing like partner contact, whatever, like back
Hmm.
and forth with someone, like you're way more
Yeah.
aware and listening. And
Yeah. Well, like I think that's a big thing. Which sucks about the current time where you can't. It's hard
yeah,
to practice with people. But I think even, you know, like a conversation is a good example. Like you say something, and maybe it's something that I might have been thinking about it, but it's not exactly how I was thinking about it. So you're saying something, and you're giving me new ideas or new perspectives, and that's making me think about something new, and then that makes me want to say something else new, and then that's making you think, oh, I hadn't thought about that, or now this is a completely new ground, whereas if I had started at the same point just by myself, or you by yourself, you would have gone in a completely different direction. I would have gone this way, or maybe we would have gone the same way, but who knows. But because of this back and forth of new ideas, or this thought made you think of this new thing, and then you put that forth, and that brings a new idea out of this person, and like, yeah.
I really think like if you dance with one dancer, another, like something different, they're gonna bring something different
Mm-hmm.
out of you. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important to dance with different people too, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was like my whole reasoning for wanting to learn just different ways of moving. It's like it exposes you to a different way of moving, and even if you take it back to whatever your core is, like your base. So for me, it's like breaking, but like being exposed to a bunch of the poppers in Vancouver made me think about certain things, and like, what if I took this, like, like a wave and it's tracing, but I'm on it and doing footwork, so I can't use my hands. What if I use my leg to do it on my other leg or something like that? Or
Yeah.
That's always like the most interesting stuff, is like, how does this thing that shouldn't belong work in this place that, and you have these rules of how it's supposed to go. So how do you make that work in this world? Yeah. And you guys, your group definitely does a great job of that, I think, of like blending this thing into this world, or kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really fun. Like we like teaching everywhere we teach. Like there's always like a really diverse group of dancers. Like we get voguers sometimes, we have jazz dancers,
Mm-hmm.
crumpers, whatever, and like how to see how they wow, sorry, my mommy brain is it's getting late. How they
Yeah.
adapt concepts to their style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something that, again, like everyone should do that. Everyone should experiment. Everyone should explore, and just even like we talked about, just it's not about just exploring movement, but just like knowing your body and being aware of your body and how it moves, and what is there available to use, and that kind of thing. And the more movement you know, the more possibilities there are, and the more like easier it is to get into this new area that you thought you couldn't get to, or something like
If you, well, Alon can talk to you for hours about
that. Yeah, we'll have to get the other half of the original Tentacle Tribe on here sometime in the future. Yeah, maybe we'll wrap things up for now.
Cool, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was really good getting to hear your story too. I think that's, for me, that's always the most interesting thing, is like, how did these people get into it? Or yeah, I like histories. And oh yeah, one thing that I wanted to ask, and maybe this can be the last thing, is like, where does the name Cleopatra come from?
That's not that interesting a story.
But that's fine.
But well, I named myself, but
that's
the
the ultimate
I really
sin.
wanted a name, and I at the beginning, like I watched a lot of Wiggles, and Wiggles used to like do a lot of like tuts and then get down, boogie boy, like fixing, hopping, breaking, and so I would go, like I'd have these like little tutting routines, and like and I had bangs, so I was like, oh, and I was like, Cleopatra. And then it stuck. Like I really didn't like it, and then when I lived in Vegas, I started doing a lot of like wormy kind of like more. So my name is Emmanuelle Manu. So someone called me Manoodle. So I wanted to be called Manoodle, and when I came back to Canada, everyone was like Cleo. They just stuck. So I kept Cleopatra.
But you gave that name to yourself?
I did.
Originally? Oh, that's fine. Hey, even as far as I know, like one of the most famous b-boys, like Wicket, he gave himself that name.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, because he liked Star Wars, and he thought it was a cool name, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who cares? Just name yourself whatever you want. Yeah. Anyway, it's good to hear that little story. Yeah, thank you for just taking the time. I know you're busy with family life now, and so I really appreciate it even more that you took the time to do this and share your story. And I hope people watching and listening, they got some stuff out of this, or they're inspired to try some new styles, and or they're inspired to check out your work and with your company, and really incredible stuff. So definitely everyone check that out. Do you have any last things you want to say?
No,
No
I mean,
pressure.
I
Like you can say.
having me, Dean, like it was really a great conversation, and thanks for all the praises. I feel like it's a lot, but I mean, I watch your little get downs and research in your living room, and it's always nice to see where you go with your dance. So.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I encourage everyone to do that. Yeah. So thanks again, and thanks everybody for listening and watching, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.